It's been nearly 20 years since Rob Zombie's Halloween came out in theaters and shocked the world, for better or worse. And saying it's been almost 20 years makes me feel old as hell. Today, I want to talk about that movie, why it's so divisive, and why I feel like it was for the best that it happened in the first place. Hey, what is up everybody? Nick here, and today I want to talk to you guys about Rob Zombie's Halloween. Now, this is a movie that, similarly to a lot of these movies in this series, I have a very complicated relationship with. So let me take you back in time to when I was 13 years old and I attended the opening day of Rob Zombie's Halloween with my friends Tommy, Chris, and their dad. That was the only way we were able to get in. Look, I was so stoked for this movie. I saw the trailers, I couldn't wait. This was not long after I had really become a Halloween fan and really began collecting the series. So I was on cloud nine thinking, oh my god, I'm going to get to see a Halloween movie opening night in theaters. This is incredible. I've told you guys a story before that years and years prior, I remember we went to a drive-in where Halloween Resurrection was the second movie showing, but I either fell asleep before it or I don't remember it as a small child. So technically, this was my first Halloween theater experience. And I remember going into this movie really hyped. And I walked out of this movie and I loved it. I mean, I could not put into words how much I loved this movie. I bought it when it came out on DVD. I watched the hell out of it, the documentary. I ate it all up. And I was so excited for the sequel. And then after the sequel came, I feel like I started to look back on Halloween and go, I don't know how I feel about that. Because they're actually very different movies, and I love Halloween too. And as we sit here today, I'm somebody that can say, I enjoy Rob Zombie's Halloween. I really do. But the reasons I enjoy it now are not why I enjoyed it before. See, when I first saw it, I thought the idea of showing us young Michael Myers and giving us some kind of explanation was really cool. And maybe it was just simply that it was something new. We were doing something we hadn't done before, and that excited me. And now, I actually find the first 40 to 45 minutes of this movie to be grating at times. And it's just kind of not fun to watch at all. And it's not just because of giving Michael an explanation and a backstory. No, that actually really doesn't bother me that much. It's how they went about it. Every character is so unlikable, they're so detestable, and they don't seem like they belong in the real world. The dialogue just isn't what a lot of normal humans say, although I will give Rob Zombie credit, he wrote based off of what he experienced growing up. So maybe this is a real thing, and I'm sure it is, and I'm sure it's an experience for him. But it's not one I share, so it's hard for me to connect to that. But furthermore, I just feel like when Rob Zombie is trying to do something new and fresh and, in his mind, exciting with an already well-established property, it falls flat mostly. But when he decides to revamp something that we've already seen in his own way, it's actually really enjoyable. Once this movie transitions to adult Michael Myers, that's when the movie really gets going. That is when the movie is fun for me. Is everything, beats that we've seen before just done to lesser effect in some ways? Of course, but that's kind of what a remake is. But I honestly feel like that's where Zombie plays best in this movie. Because he switches up locations of certain things, certain ways that people die, how certain scenes play out, where it's just different enough while also familiar enough to the original film that you're kind of having fun. You don't feel like you're seeing everything recreated shot by shot, and that's really cool. Also, you actually have likable characters in the second half of this movie. Everybody likes Annie, and sure, it's Danielle Harris, so we can't help it, but she's really good in this movie, and you like the character. Everybody likes Laurie for the most part, She is still that innocent, kind of shy, keeps to herself, but she has a spunky side. And that was different from the Laurie we saw in 1978. Adult Michael Myers is super menacing and just terrifying at points, and Tyler Mane has the absolute force of nature, physical stature that you need to really sell Zombie's version of Michael Myers to audiences. The atmosphere is great, the kills and the effects are top notch. It's hard to walk away without giving that credit. And it's weird now as an adult that I can say the second half is the best part because I honestly probably preferred the first half when I was younger. See, the complicated relationship people have with Rob Zombie's Halloween is fairly simple. A lot of people that are purists were upset that he was giving a backstory to Michael Myers. Not only did they feel like it wasn't necessary, they would argue that it took away some of the mystique of Michael. Now, I personally don't really care because I feel like it's a choose your own adventure kind of thing. Even, Jamie Lee has said that in recent years. But I do understand that. It's also just how they went about it. It's not that they gave him an explanation, it's how they explained it, and it's just not, I don't know, it's not a fun watch at times in the first half of this movie. Another reason people had issues with it is just simply, again, purists saying, why remake something that's already perfect? I've never been able to subscribe to that belief, and I never will find myself subscribing to that belief. Just because something was great doesn't mean you can't do better or do a companion piece that's just fun and exciting and enjoyable. I feel like any filmmaker that wants to tackle an existing IP and just, I don't know, freshen it up for a new generation, let them. What harm does it do? That previous movie still exists. This is not going to wipe away the history of that film. So I've never been able to subscribe to that argument either. But honestly, I really just feel like a lot of people's issue with this movie is Rob Zombie's tone and style. Rob Zombie is very, very gritty, grindhouse, grimy, dirty. You don't have fun a lot of the times when you're watching some of these characters talk and interact in these worlds that Rob Zombie builds. It's dirty. It makes you want to have to, I don't know, take a shower. You're just like, I need to delouse. That's Rob Zombie's style. And I don't think a lot of people felt it meshed well with the Halloween franchise. And I'll hear you out with the first act of this movie and totally agree. But in the second half, I feel like he adds enough edge to something that's already familiar that it's palatable and it works. But I don't think it works in the beginning of the film. And that was something that I just feel like as years go on, you see the same arguments in comment sections and forums online about Rob Zombie is white trash, everybody's cussing every other word, it's all sex and gross and blah, 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 blah. Look, I mean, Rob Zombie's style is Rob Zombie's style. I am a Rob Zombie fan, and I'm here to say that I feel like at this point, you know what a Rob Zombie movie is, so if you go and see it, knowing it what it is, and you already know you don't like him, that's on you. That's not on Rob Zombie. But I will hear that argument for the first half of this movie, like I said. But the second half of the movie is really fun. Another part of the complicated history with this movie is some of the old heads that wanted to see a Halloween 9. You know, that had been shopped around for a couple years. There were stops, there were starts. People were really excited to see a continuation of Resurrection for whatever reason. I genuinely don't know. And remaking it with Rob Zombie at the helm just put a sour taste in their mouth before cameras even started rolling. They were not okay with that at all. They wanted to see the original timeline continue, and a lot of them felt like as soon as you go remaking it, everything changes. And they were right, but I feel like it was for the best. Because let's not pretend that the Halloween franchise was in a good position after Resurrection. Resurrection didn't make a lot of money. It got horrible reviews. Fans mostly didn't like it, and it was kind of laughed at. And even now, like 20 years later, everybody laughs at that movie. Like they just do. Even if they like it, they're like, yeah, but this isn't particularly good. And I think Rob Zombie injected some very much needed vitality into this franchise. This movie was a huge hit. And up until a couple years ago, for like 15 years, held the Labor Day weekend record at the box office. Like, that's a big deal for a Rob Zombie Halloween remake. Like, you know, give him his flowers, okay? And I feel like it got people talking about Halloween again, and it spurred a new era of remakes and reboots. Not long after that, you'd see Jason pop back up. You'd see Freddy pop back up. My Bloody Valentine. Halloween kind of spearheaded that with some of these slasher icons. And I feel like without Rob's Halloween, the horror landscape would probably be so much different than it is right now. I can understand the arguments against Rob's film and against his involvement in the Halloween franchise at all, but I would say it averages out to a net positive because, if anything, it brought Halloween back. Halloween was never going to get a sequel after Resurrection. They were never going to continue that timeline. And if they did, we would have gone straight to video hell. It would have been a movie like Hellraiser Revelations. Maybe not that bad, okay? But it would have been nonsensical. It would have got so long in the tooth that we just wouldn't take Halloween seriously anymore. And as somebody that loves a franchise like Hellraiser, let me let you guys in on a little secret, okay? Hellraiser has not been marketable for years because it languished in DTV hell for decades. And that is why nobody views that seriously. And it's a shame because it really is a great franchise. But Halloween would have suffered that fate had Resurrection gotten a sequel. So the complicated history with Rob Zombie's Halloween is really simple. A lot of people didn't want to see a remake. They didn't want to see Rob Zombie's take on it. And then when they got it, it kind of verified a lot of their worst fears. But at the same time, without this movie, we wouldn't have gotten any other movie after that. Halloween wouldn't be a hugely popular, marketable brand that was coming out in theaters every few years and making hundreds of millions of dollars and putting Michael Myers back on the map as the king of slashers. So again, I feel like it's a net positive that this movie happened, and I'm really glad it did. And although now as an adult I settle on, you know what, the movie's fine. I like it well enough. I have a lot of issues with the first half of the film, but everything else after that is gravy for me. Even then, I'm happy this movie was made, and I'm never gonna not like the movie. And nobody's ever gonna get me to not like the movie. But I want to hear down below in the comment section what you guys think about the complicated history of Rob Zombie's Halloween. Do you feel like it was also a net positive? Do you feel like it was a negative? Are you still so anti-Rob Zombie and anti-Rob Zombie's Halloween that you will scream it from the rooftops until somebody hears your pleas and erases these movies from existence? Whatever it is, I want to hear down below in the comment section from you. Please be sure to leave a like on this video, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. This is Nick at the Lost River Drive-In, and I'm pulling out.